Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Chicago here. We got November the 5th, 2025. We're going to head up Michigan Avenue here. It's not too bad here. We got about 50, upper 50s, between 55 and 60 degrees. And we'll just head up Michigan Avenue and see if anything's happening. Hey, we saw at lunchtime that they're setting up the official Christmas tree there in Millennium Park there. So we saw the crane, we saw some of the construction workers in the tree, and they'll continue. We'll keep you posted as they progress with adding the lights. It'll probably take them the next 2 weeks to put millions of lights on there. There'll be a bunch of booms, and we'll later this week and certainly next week we'll show the workers putting all the lights there. Chris, how you doing there? Krista, Open Plumbing there. Scott G, Anita, thanks for tuning in. ECG. Yeah, I'm a little late getting started tonight. I couldn't get out of the office there, and I wanted to post those videos. I also posted the gravy boat. We saw the gravy boat. I left work a little early to try to film the bridge lift, but they didn't do a bridge lift today. They postponed it. They're going to do it on Saturday, but we caught that water taxi that Jewel Osco converted to the gravy boat for Thanksgiving. So at least we got some Thanksgiving stuff in there. Look at the little CTA train car there. This is a gift shop on Michigan Avenue here. And there's the Mather Tower, the top of the London House there. There's the Wrigley building. It looks nice at night, doesn't it? It's all lit up there. Yeah, Christine ECG there. Stephanie, Jeff, how you doing there, Jeff? Yeah, we were talking about Dave Mustaine last night. I thought of you. We were talking about how the Metallica kicked out Dave Mustaine because of his ego. S-Man Sky, how you doing there? Call me Fed. Jesus there, how you doing there? Anita? Yeah, Open Plumbing. Yeah, Ferguson, how you doing there? Michelle, Subi, thanks for tuning in. So hey, we'll cross Wacker Drive. We'll just head straight up Michigan, and we'll head on home here. Hey, Fannie Mae. Hey, the Blackhawk store. Look at that. So, hey, we got to go around the bus. We missed the bus. Look at all these buses bunching up here. Oh, buses everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a bus. Yeah, in ECG, it's a beautiful night there. Yeah, look at that. Look at the Wrigley building there. Tribune, yeah, thanks, Anita. There's the Chicago Architecture Center. So it's a little bit more crowded than it usually is. It wasn't as crowded this morning, but now we got crowds on Michigan Avenue here. We'll head across the bridge. Wrigley still owns Catalina Island. Yeah, they were crazy rich there. Yeah, the Cubs actually used to have spring training like at Catalina Island, and you know, that's why the Cubs still go to Arizona. The White Sox go to Arizona, but yeah, it wouldn't be. I think they had a mansion or still have a mansion. Their Catalina Island's off of Los Angeles. There, it's out in the Pacific Ocean. So there's the Chicago River. There's the St. Regis there, the Hyatt. There's the Trump Tower. There's the London House. There's the Wrigley building all lit up there. So hey, we'll head past the Apple store, see what's happening on Michigan Avenue there. Yeah, it's a beautiful night for a walk. Grandma's Corner, how you doing there? Eminem, Subi, Anita, Boo, Zoom Patrol. Yeah, it's crowded. Well, okay, so, you know, before the pandemic, this is how Michigan Avenue was most nights. It would get so crowded in the summertime, I would avoid it. Like before I was live streaming, I would go up Wabash or State Street or Dearborn to avoid it because it would be annoying. And you know, it's just, it will get more crowded, especially when they do the holiday lights eventually. You know, when they turn on that official Christmas tree, we saw them set at Millennium Park, I think November the 20th, that same weekend. There's Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable. We were talking about him at lunchtime too. But yeah, then they'll turn on the lights, and then the rest of the holiday season we'll be able to walk under the beautiful Michigan Avenue holiday lights. But we still got a ways to go here. But it gets dark early. It gets dark 5 o'clock. It'll get dark. It'll get dark 4:20 by the time we get to December 21st. But here, there's the Tribune Tower. There's the Realtor building where Bob Newhart worked. There's the Wrigley building. If you look back there, look at the beautiful skyline across the river. But hey, people are still wearing shorts. It's still jacket weather. It's not too bad. Felt pretty good at lunchtime. So here, let's cross because we might dodge over to Wabash. Eventually I'll get tired of Michigan Avenue, as we all do. But hey, we'll check it out here. Hey, Dolores, Naya Papaya, how you doing there, Pete? And really, Julie Reed, how's everybody doing there? Good evening there. So, yeah, look at that view. So if you missed it, we saw the gravy boat. We saw the Thanksgiving boat. They had a band on it. I was hoping to see it during the lunchtime walk, but I would not have got that footage if I was looking for the sailboats. I was looking for the bridge lift, but they didn't do it today, even though it was a sunny day. I guess no boats, or they just pushed it to Saturday. There's the Plaza of the Americas, the Benito Juarez statue, and then we'll head up Michigan Avenue here. Yeah, the Second City still has live improv. You can take improv classes and you can see live improv comedy. Usually the audience can interact. Well, it depends on the show. Sometimes the audience can interact with the improv. The Second City, we'll go by it probably later tonight. And yeah, that's where I'm heading. I'm going to go through Old Town and head up to Lincoln Park. This is my commute home from work. And I know it's the same, pretty predictable here, at least weekdays. But here, there's the, it was the blue yesterday. They don't have the blue lights, but there's the Intercontinental Hotel. Used to be the Medina Athletic Association. It's got the pool on the 17th floor, I think. One of those floors that has a beautiful pool. I call it the Great Gatsby pool. If you ever stayed there. Hey, there's a saxophonist there. No, a trumpeter. That's a trumpet. Very nice. Yeah. See, we got all this live music performances here. France. Bonjour. Didou. Hello. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in from France there. Nam, how you doing there? You chill, Nam. Don't tell Anita to chill. You chill. You know, let's all get along here. It's not that hard. We'll figure it out. And yeah, look at that beautiful facade there. Somebody tried to put something on his nose. It's funny how I would never want my face image on a bus advertisement photo, because people will use marker and draw on your face, and you can imagine what goes on. But I don't want my face on the side of a bus either. But here, we'll go by the Nordstrom's. Traffic's moving fine. There's the Brinks truck. Hey, look at that. So I saw Ernesto Chicago Nuggies was streaming in Millennium Park. He was with somebody, I'm not for sure who. And I saw Jennifer You Should Eat. She's probably streaming right now, so you can check out Jennifer You Should Eat. I don't know where she's at there. I didn't get to check, but fellow Chicago live streamers. And yeah, we'll go Untucket. What do we got? The Pop Mart here. Maybe we still got some mums and some hay bales here. Michigan Avenue. Yeah, look at the crowds here. So there's scaffolding. Yeah, Hubert gave me the good information. I guess that chalk, where the Ghirardelli used to be, the Ghirardelli now is in the Wrigley building. But the Ghirardelli used to be just north of the water tower, and that whole block's vacant of commercial space. But we saw some activity, and Hubert, I believe him, he thinks it's going to be a chocolate another chocolate place there, and so we'll get you more information about that. And so here, let's cut over here. We'll cut over on Ohio Street, and we'll leave Michigan Avenue, and we'll head towards Wabash. Here we'll go over towards Uno's and Due's, the Chicago-style pizza places there, and we'll go by the Medina Temple Auditorium. Massachusetts, how you doing there? Kira, yeah, Sergio, Margie are. Oh, Jeff, so Jennifer just entered her live. Good, perfect timing. So, perfect timing. Thanks for the good information. So, yeah, it's probably good that I started later then. It all works out. So here, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to Ohio Street. We're heading west. And usually people come off the highway here. Hey, they got an AMC movie theater here. And Shake Shack. Go across. This is Rush Street. Rush Street. It's Rush Street looking north. Here's Rush Street there. See how the Nordstrom goes over top of it. And the Gwynn Hotel. Hey, Shake Shack. Holiday Shakes. How you doing? Hey, look. People coming out of there. How you doing? So what is this? Activate. Enter the now open. It's called Activate. Does anybody know what that is? We'll look into that. It's right next to Eataly. So this used to be Disney Quest years ago when I moved here. It was like a video games. It's called Activate. A new way to play. So is this like is it like virtual reality? I'll look into that. Enter the game. So I bet it's like virtual reality simulation stuff. And here's Eataly, the grocery store. And they have restaurants inside there, wine and everything. You can take cooking classes. Here's Uno's. This is Uno's Pizzeria. That's Chicago-style pizza there. That's the first Uno's in Chicago. And then Due's is just a block north. See how they just used a residential house there that's left over. It's the last residential house besides the ones we'll go by here. The other ones that survived. Yeah, Steak 48. Here's the Medina Temple Auditorium. Look at this beautiful building. This was built in the early part of the 20th century by the Shriners. The Shriners were their subgroup of the Masons. You ever heard of the Shriner Circus? The Shriner Circus used to, people remember that, it was a big amphitheater in there, and it had nice acoustics, but they destroyed that when they did the Bloomingdale's furniture, and then it sat vacant for a few years, and then now it's a temporary location for the Bally's Casino, and we went by the permanent location, which is being built on the North Branch Chicago River. Here's Pizzeria Due's. This is the second Uno's. Of course, Uno's, Due, 1 and 2 in the Italian number system there, language. And here we'll cross the street here. We're at Wabash. The traffic's all backed up. They can't make the turn there. Here's the parking garage. But look at this beautiful detailing. They got the onion domes, and you can look back to the Trump Tower right there. And there it is. There's the Bally's Casino. There's Pizzeria Dio. See, another residential house with the mansard roof. And here's the Wake and Bakery, Trader Joe's. Yeah, honk you. Hey, Mary Therese, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, thanks. And Kira, Elizabeth. Yeah. Ireland's tuning in. Catherine, yeah. Juan, how you doing there? So we have a building in Chicago that kind of looks like the World Trade Center. It's called the Aon Building, and it's near Millennium Park. It's only one. Of course, the World Trade Center, there were two of them. We have a building, it's the old, well, it's not the old, it's the Montgomery Ward's former corporate headquarters there over by Chicago and Larrabee there. It was the same architect, Yamasaki. Yamasaki was the architect of the World Trade Center. He's a Japanese-American architect. He also designed the Montgomery wards there. He did that before the World Trade Center. Here's the Hotel Cass. Why is this called Hotel Cass? Wabash used to be called Cass Street. Why is that? Well, I need to find the information. Here's the Cable House. This is a railroad baron that built this, and the McCormicks, they bought it because they bought a bunch of stuff. McCormick's used to own a bunch of, heirs to the McCormick Reaper fortune used to own a bunch of housing around here. It's this Richardsonian Romanesque style, and they got the beautiful porch. So here we'll head across Erie Street. There's the, look at the view to the John Hancock. There's the Dree House Museum, and the Murphy Memorial's right next to it. They annexed that. The Dree House, you can pay. It's beautiful inside there. They have a beautiful interior skylight, and the Gilded Age splendor of this used to be a private residence. Now it's a mansion here called, or a museum called the Dree House Museum, and they have historical displays and other traveling exhibits. Hey, you get your wedding dress. Well, Rosa Clara, yeah, look at that wedding gown there. Wow, we're just doing, there are the bridesmaids there. Yeah, and here's the lobby for the Pinnacle luxury condo building here across from St. James Cathedral. St. James Cathedral, Chicago, Illinois. We're on Wabash here. That bell tower, portions of it survived the Great Chicago Fire, but this church was largely destroyed by the Great Chicago Fire. They rebuilt it, and then later the roof caught on fire and they had to redo it again. But the same thing happened with the Holy Name Cathedral. And there was churches in the loop that we lost that they didn't rebuild, or they used it for commercial space. But there are churches in the loop. We film them every once in a while. Just a few. They're like skyscraper churches. Look, hey, we got some. These are the first, some of the first Christmas lights here. So here we'll head over this way. Hey, this will get you in the mood for the holiday lights here. Yeah, Zara, how you doing there? Pete, TC, Glade, Sunny Kid. Yeah, we got, that's that Ikram or whatever that. Is that still the Ikram? Yeah, I think that's a Ikram. Is that how you say it? It's a clothing store there. But hey, they got the beautiful red and green Christmas trees here. Yeah, we'll cross the street here. We'll cross right here. Comes the car. I like the round windows here. But here we got some beautiful holiday lights here. Yeah, look at the interior there. We'll show the Ikram here. Is that how you say it? Look at those almond-shaped windows. No, you're fine. Thank you. Don't worry about it. There, look at that. I like the interior design. So I think, is this Erie State? We're like Erie and State. Yeah, Ikram. Ikram Boutique Cafe. Monday through Saturday. But hey, they got some nice lights here. So yeah, we'll just head up State Street maybe for a little bit. See what's shaking here. We'll have to go by that. There's a building with nice window displays just south here that we missed. Happy Wednesday. Yeah, Phil. Yeah, flowers to the mods there. Thanks to the mods. Mod Squad. We still got time to get across the street. Yeah, we do. Huron. Okay, so we're on Huron. We were on Erie. The Ikram's on Huron. So these Christmas tree lights are on Huron and State Street here. So here, let's cross. Hey, there's the Depop. Hop on, hop off, big bus. Take the tour there. State Street, that great street. Chicago, Illinois. We got about 57 degrees, maybe, we'll guess. And we got 5:52 in the PM Central Time Zone. Man, Christmas lights. The killer bakery in town. Go to the Waken Bakery. No, I don't know. Is there a better bakery than the Waken Bakery? I'm sure there is. You can go to El Nopal. Go to El Nopal. There's many locations. There's one on 26th Street, and there's one in Pilsen. Go to El Nopal. It's a famous, for Chicago, Mexican-American bakery. There's another place that Ernie showed me. It was the place that makes the, not the tostadas. the oh, I can't think of what they're called, but I'll have to whip that out. I don't know if it's a bakery, but they make some really good food on Blue Island there. So here we cross the street. There's the Holy Name Cathedral here. We're on State Street, just north of Superior, and this is the Archdiocese of the Catholic Church. Hey, we got some, see under the One Chicago Tower, which is residential, we got some lights here. Jaime Weiss was murdered on the steps of this church during the Prohibition gangland era violence there. Al Capone had proxies, probably it was Machine Gun McGurn who was in the upper story windows above Schofield's across the street. Or no, the building next door to Schofield's. They wouldn't have used Schofield's because Jaime Weiss used Schofield's after Dean O'Banion was killed. And then Schofield's was a flower shop right across from the Holy Name Cathedral. They would provide flowers for a lot of the funerals, including Dean O'Banion's own funeral. Yeah, Phil, you're from LA there, just a glance. How you doing there? Yeah, there's druggies in every city. You should know that from LA. Welcome to the big bad city. Everybody's like, where are they at? I want to see them. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why you want to see that, but each your own. Here's yeah, we'll head across let's see, which way do we want to go? We don't have the light here, so we'll zig and zag here. Oh, look at that nice U-turn there. That's how you beat the light. So, State and Chicago Avenue here. There's looking south. City looks nice here. Hey, Sydney, Ohio, how you doing there? Sydney's between south of Toledo, north of Dayton there. I-75 there. How you doing there, Sydney? Yeah. I had a friend from college that grew up in Fort Laramie. You know where Fort Laramie is? Yeah. I went to the University of Cincinnati, so I had friends that grew up on the north side of Dayton. Is there Inglewood? Inglewood's on the north side of Dayton there. Yeah, let's we'll head up State Street here. Yeah, there's a lot of Japanese Americans in Chicago. There's probably not a, like, there's a Chinatown. There's a substantial Chinatown in Chicago. That's not Japanese town. Like, I know in LA there's a Japanese Japantown, and there's some Japanese major businesses in the suburbs. There used to be a small Japanese American enclave, believe it or not, just south of Wrigleyville. This was decades ago. This was in the middle part of the 20th century. That's why the Nisei Lounge, the Nisei Lounge bar on Sheffield, it's like a legacy from that. But it was really small. And I don't know, does anybody know of any Japanese American enclaves in Chicago? I don't know. I know Devon Avenue is South Asian. I know we got a Chinatown. And you know, I know LA has a Koreatown. We have a lot of Korean Americans in Chicago, but they're all spread out. I worked with some Korean Americans, but they live in Skokie. So this is I don't know. But here we'll head across here. We're heading up State Street. Good question. There, we'll cross the street here. Hey, there's J Dog and Burger here. I can film this place now. I was always scared to film this place because I've got, well, on TikTok, I got many violations for just accidentally filming this for obvious reasons, but YouTube is much more forgiving. How you doing there? Hey, how you doing? Hey, thanks for saying hello there. All good. I'm on YouTube now, so I'm getting away from TikTok, but I'm still posting reruns. But I wouldn't be able to film that on TikTok. I got so many violations, you know, even though it's legal. Hey, have a good night. Thank you, appreciate it. So here, yeah, friends and neighbors here. We'll cut over to Washington Square here. Look at that mural. I don't know if that's an advertisement or a mural there. Look at that. And here we'll cross the street here. This is a nice little one-block street that can, well, it actually goes further. This connection from State Street. This is Chestnut. I call it Joey Chestnut. Chestnut Place.
I think they took notice of it too, but I told you this one.
It just doesn't connect, and then it starts again on the other side of this, and it goes this way for a while. One destination, endless possibilities. Maybe look at that. So, Irish Rebel, heart attack. We're having a heart attack. JF. Yeah, the real. Yeah, Circle K. That's just a regular Circle K. I know. I don't know if I know of any other Circle K that's standalone like that. Most of them are just gas stations, like you said. Thanks for pointing that out. Look at these beautiful Italianate residential townhomes here. Chestnut. And we'll head up Dearborn here. We'll head up into the Gold Coast here. Mr. Angel there. Netherlands. Hey, thanks for tuning in there. That's great. Rural Tennessee there. Circle K. Oh, you got a regular Circle K just standalone there. That's good, Gene. Yeah, Dracula. Yeah, everybody's in the chat here. So here, let's normally we head through Washington Square, but I think hey, we still got Dia de los Muertos. Hey, let's film this. So here, because you're probably going to take this down soon. I like the little mask here. Look at that. You see many of these with the skulls with the flowers in the eyes, and there's the Grim Reaper there. Nice window display. This beautiful lighting here. If you just joined, we're in Chicago. This is Dearborn Street. We're still in River North. We're heading towards the Gold Coast. I'm walking home from work. The Dill Pickle Club used to be down this alley, and Studs Terkel talks about it back in the teens, 20s, and 30s. This was a bohemian socialist hangout, and it was a speakeasy. You see where that parking garage was? There used to be a building. You entered a door, and it was called the Dill Pickle Club. It's before my time. I think it's before all of our times. But Studs Terkel talks about, see, this used to be a more seedy, artistic, bohemian neighborhood back in the day, and now it's all expensive real estate because of the proximity to Michigan Avenue and downtown. And this is Washington Square Park. The Newberry Library was always here from when it was built in the late 1880s. Richardsonian Romanesque or Romanesque building. Yeah, San Francisco. The sunset from the Golden Gate Bridge is beautiful, or from the cliffs there. Yeah, if you go to the Pacific Ocean, and see, we get the rising sun. We see the rising sun many times over Lake Michigan. You get the setting sun. Hey, there's some Christmas lights down that way. This is Delaware Street, but the park's all dark, so we'll just stay on the street here. Yeah, we try. I don't know everything about the city. I've learned a lot by just doing this. It helps me get my facts correct, and I learned stuff from other Chicago live streamers. There's other urban planners that do a better job about talking about the actual community involvement and planning and issues with transit, and they do community meetings and stuff like that. Here's the Harvest Bible Chapel. Look at that beautiful entrance there, Gothic. And here it is, the Harvest Bible Chapel, right across from the Newberry Library in Washington Square Park here. This school is called the William F. Ogden School, or William Ogden School. He was the first mayor of Chicago. He was a developer of the railroads that helped this city grow. They named a school after him there. And we'll head up Dearborn Street. Yeah, I'm not a Chicago native. I've been here for 26 years. The reason, I am by my degree, I went to college. I'm a city planner, urban planning. So I'm interested in the history of all cities, not just Chicago. I can tell you just as much about the history of Cincinnati, where I went to college. I don't know as much about New York or LA or San Francisco, but I know enough to talk about how those cities developed, how neighborhoods changed over time, when the Central Park was developed, stuff like that, Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. We talk about transit, city issues. I'm a country boy that moved to the city, so I got that perspective. And I don't have a car. I take transit. I do have a driver's license, but, I only rent cars if I have to. And when we go to Texas, my father has several cars, and we take one of theirs and those and tootle around Texas because it's hard to, Texas has some transit, but Dallas has some transit, and so does Houston, but I think Austin has one transit line. The Amtrak goes down there. I've taken the Amtrak from Chicago to Texas many times. I've taken the Amtrak to New Orleans. I would like to do that again. City of New Orleans there. But here we're in Chicago. We're on Dearborn Street. There's that Pal and Chisel art place we always film there. And then there's the Ruth Page dance studio there. I heard that, and that's why the noise of the kid was jumping off that railing there. But the Ruth Page, what is it called? Something Center for the Arts, Dance Center for the Arts, I don't know. They do ballet and whatever. But here's some little residential buildings here. Look how they build out on the front yard. This is Dearborn Street. Yeah, this is some of the original housing that was developed after the Great Chicago Fire, because this whole area was destroyed by the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. But this probably goes to the 1880s, 1890s. And then they get in the 1920s, they developed these larger apartment blocks, or apartment buildings, higher density, because the Red Line subway stop was added in the 1940s. And so this area got a lot more dense because of the proximity to the subway station. And then we get this stuff in the 70s. And there's an Ace Hardware that connects to Mariano Park that way. We're on Dearborn Street at Maple. This is Maple. And there's the Viagra Triangle Russian Division area there. We're almost to Division. We'll cross Division. Yeah, all ones. Too nice to look. Yeah. Poor Mrs. O'Leary there, she got blamed, and they think in hindsight they did an investigation, and they wanted to blame the Irish woman and her cow. It might have been a drunk guy named Pegleg O'Sullivan that tipped over the lantern and ran out, and then she got blamed because the fire started on her property, and she lost her house too, or her barn, and her cow. I don't know what happened to the cow. But Mrs. O'Leary, she lived after fire. It haunted her the rest of her life. Descendants to talk about it, how it changed her life and how it was unfair, how she was treated. And so it's good that we talk about it. And that was the anti-Irish sentiment of that time period. The same, we're going through a period where there's anti-Mexican-American sentiment in this country. Don't act like there isn't when the Supreme Court says it's okay to profile Spanish speakers or how people look. It is anti-American sentiment, a new form of jingoism. And in the 1800s, German Americans, Irish Americans, Italian Americans, Polish Americans experienced the same anti-immigrant sentiment. And America has, think about the Asian Exclusion Acts. After the gold rush, a lot of in California, that's how Chicago gets its Chinatown. Chinese immigrants came from across the Pacific to work in the gold rush, and then they worked on the railroads, and then there was especially in California in the 1800s, there was anti-Asian sentiment. In World War II, they were actually, the Japanese Americans got reparations for that because it was wrong how they were treated. But that time, that's how they did it. And, we're going through and I know people, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of enforcing the law. It's just, is there not a more humane way to do it? I think that my personal opinion is it's meant to spread fear and intimidation, and that's built into the tactics. And they know people aren't going to like it, and that's why they're doing it this way. And I'm not happy with it, but I guess we've gone through periods like this before. But hey, that's amazing what happened in New York City there, the mayoral election there we were talking about this morning. And we'll see how it goes. Here we'll cross, this is Dearborn Street here. Angie Love, how you doing there, Karen? Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Yeah. We always wanted a president that wears makeup, you know. We get tips from Estee Lauder there. Here's hey, Walgreens. There's Mother's, Bush McGuire's shenanigans. We'll pick a night. We'll go back into Bush McGuire's. We'll see if they got the train. We'll see if they got they have trains that go on top of the bar when they decorate for Christmas, and they're still putting up the decorations there. Yeah, we're done talking about Lori Lightfoot. We got Brandon Johnson to talk about now. Here's no, thanks for bringing that up. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we were talking about the libraries. They're cutting the budget for the libraries in the latest city budget because there's not enough money to go around. But they did find money for the CTA, mainly with new taxes. We'll see how that plays out. I know it's going to anger the suburbs, especially because they increased the tollway tolls. And people that use the tollway probably don't use the CTA. But the suburbs have been mooching off the city for a long time, and vice versa. It's a vicious cycle there. Hey, they still got some of their Halloween decorations that we were in. This, you know, this is Dearborn Street, Gold Coast, Chicago. It's on TV. Chicken on a pizza. I've had chicken on a pizza. It's okay. It's not my favorite. Just like I don't like pineapple on a pizza, but sometimes people do that. I really don't like anchovies on pizza either, but sometimes you need some saltiness. And yeah, so here's the Kabod house here. You got the menorah, and here's the residential housing. Look at the stained glass windows. We'll go by this boutique hotel, the Clare Ridge House. There you go to cows. Yeah, Hawaiian pizza. That's got the pineapple on it there. Yeah, you got the mushrooms there. That's good. Oh, High Bridge. Okay, good. Yeah, the CTA's been cut its service for decades. We talk about some of the stations that we lost, but they did add some new stations recently. They had the Damon stop and a few other in the last 10, 15 years ago. They added some new stations. But yeah, at least we still have transit in some form. And here's the RH Furniture, the old 3 Arts Club there. You can go inside. They got the beautiful 3 Arts Club there with the glass roof and the fountain there. You can dine and check out furniture there. The RH Furniture stands for Restoration Hardware. They restored this Barbizon type building here. It used to be like a finishing school for debutantes and women from a high social class there back in the Gilded Age there. And they would they unmarried women could reside in the city respectively, because at that time there were brothels and a lot of cities, American cities. Here's the yeah, they got the nice Halloween decorations here on Dearborn Street. Still, we're in the 12 days of Halloween. We saw that Thanksgiving boat there at lunchtime. That was nice. Yeah, Roman steel. M&M. Yeah. Thanks. Arno's Hotel. I'll have to look that up. I don't know that. Can anybody put that into a chat GP or something? Can you give me the address of the Arno's Hotel? I don't know that off the top of my head. You stumped a chump here. I don't know everything, but hey, there's some Halloween decorations still. Let's check it out here, because these are going to be gone eventually. People will start moving the Christmas decorations. But here, Dearborn Street, Gold Coast, Chicago. We're heading home from work here on a Wednesday. Hey, I'm walking through the crunching leaves here. We saw some of the beautiful fall color there this morning, walking into Lincoln Park, and then we saw it in Millennium Park. They're setting up the official Christmas tree there. I posted some reruns there. Hey, look at that. The Halloween lights here on Dearborn Street, Gold Coast, Chicago. Yeah. Yeah, they got this stuff on the side here. That's nice. We filmed this already. The Croydon Hotel on Rush Street. Okay, that's good. It's from the movie Big. I don't know. The Gothic Mansion. It had a sign saying Gothic Mansion. Margie R. Okay, thank you. Arno's Hotel. I don't know that. Okay, 168. Okay, 168 Michigan for the Arlo. ARLO. Okay, 168. If it's 168 North Michigan, that's north of Randolph, south of Lake Street on Michigan, which is near the Smurfit Stone building. So it's probably gone. There is a building there that could have been it. The nearest hotel I know there is the Pendry Hotel. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. You got me there. If it's 158 South Michigan, then it's south of Madison. It's actually across from the Art Institute. And I don't know. There are some hotels down there. The Chicago Athletic Association Hotel. And there, if you go further down, there's the Congress Hotel and the Hilton, the Blackstone Hotel. But I don't know the Arlo. It's somewhere along there. So it's near the Loop. It's not near where we're at now. Either way, we're in the 1400 block of Dearborn, so we're well north of that. Here, yeah, we filmed these Halloween decorations. They got the nice scarecrow and beautiful porch here. Look at that. Look at that door. And they had some nice Halloween decorations, but they took them down. That's a vintage apartment building. It was always an apartment building, and we got inside the courtyard there. It's just beautiful. They got some beautiful stoops here. Look at these beautiful porches and stairs and housing here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago here, Dearborn Street. Yeah, we'll cross. They got some Christmas lights out here for St. Chrysostom's. I think it's a Presbyterian. Oh, here comes a bike. Gotta work out for the bike lanes here. They were riding the bike looking at their phone. That was pretty good. I guess that's probably what I look like when I live stream on a bike. They're like, that guy's live streaming on a bike. Here's yeah, the nice lights here, St. Chrysostom's. So holiday fair, what is this? Let's see. It's gonna be November 6th preview, November 7th and 8th. So November 7th and 8th, I guess that's this coming weekend. We're gonna have the holiday fair here at St. Chrysostom's. This is a nice courtyard. Oh, okay. So this church is amazing. I've gone in it before. This is St. Chrysostom's Episcopalian. I'll lower my voice. I'll take over my hat. Looks like they're having a service here, so I'll respectfully let them have their service. But look at this beautiful, and it's known for the beehive. Let me show you the beehive here. I got a rerun of the inside. We were able to go inside there on the Dearborn Garden Walk. This is St. Chrysostom's Episcopalian in Gold Coast on Dearborn Street. See this beehive? It says 1922. It's a little balcony that the minister or the clergy can go out there and give addresses. But I think a Hindu guru visited Chicago, I don't know, in the 20th century there, a long time ago, and really loved that and gave a speech there, I think, or liked that beehive. And of course it goes back to John the Baptist there, even Milk and Honey, St. Chrysostom's. They were having a service in there, so I didn't want to just bust and open the door and everybody would turn around, and I'm you know. Swami, yeah, there it is. There it is. Swami, V-I-V-E-K, Vivekananda. Thank you. Thanks, Gene. The Swami Vivekananda. Thank you. Thanks for the good info there. Yeah, 1922. Yeah, the churches are so pretty. Yeah, we often film churches. I know I film a lot of Catholic churches, but there's a lot of Catholic churches in Chicago, and they're all beautiful. Polish cathedral style. Here, look at this housing on Dearborn Street. Yeah. Every time, there's a lot of Chicagoans living in Florida. Often we get, some people don't miss Chicago. They certainly don't miss the winters. I'm sure you don't miss the winter. Some people that move to Florida, they do miss Chicago because, you do get used to the changing of the seasons. Positive, negatives, everything. There's many positives of Florida, but there are some negatives like hurricanes. And there's many positives of Chicago, but there's many negatives besides the crime and the weather and the high taxes and the traffic. No one likes Chicago. No one likes Chicago. We're the bad city. We're the city everybody gets to look down on, feel better about themselves because they don't live in Chicago. Yeah. I'm just hoping that the ire of the president is now going to be focused on New York City because Mamdani and we'll see if the president follows through with his threat to cut off federal funding to New York. And the stock market will still go up because the stock market doesn't care. The stock market has AI, and that's all that matters. They invented God and found a way to profit off of it. But it takes a lot of energy. God takes a lot of energy to crunch all those questions that everybody's asking. Take your job. I would say, people are so worried about an immigrant or a migrant taking their job, and I'm like, your job's going to be replaced by AI. The same thing, you invest in your 401k, it's going to end your job. So you're going to need that, live off your stock winnings there. We're all going to retire when we're 30. They don't need us anymore. I saw Amazon had massive layoffs. I saw UBS had massive layoffs. A lot of it's corporate. They're blaming on AI, but the guy gave a good discussion about it, and who knows if he's right or wrong, or who knows what the real reason is. But he says they had to either spend money on investing in AI infrastructure or paying their employees, so they chose investing in AI infrastructure. Because eventually they won't need the employees if they do the AI infrastructure. So I hail our new robot overlords here, and we've already been dealing with the algorithm if you're a live streamer. Yeah, when documented and undocumented immigrants lose their jobs, so do regular citizens. So look, we're all losing our jobs. But hey, look at the bright lights here. So we'll leave the nice housing of Dearborn Street in the Gold Coast. We'll head straight over to Old Town, and we bypassed Wells Street. We'll go down Wells Street maybe tomorrow night. I'll probably work from home on Friday, but we'll head into the office tomorrow. Yeah, it's beautiful. Don't call young folks dummies. We're going to need them someday. Catwalk, how you doing? I realized that when like Mandambi, he's younger than me, and he's already accomplished more than probably I'll ever accomplish. Pete Buttigieg, he's younger than me, and all these movers and shakers affecting the world here, young politicians here. Yeah, I know. I think, Gene, you bring up a good point. I personally think a lot of the AI is a bunch of happy talk that's not going to come to fruition. It's overhyped. The AI is going to cause major disruptions and impacts to our society, but just like with the dot-com boom and bubble, some of it's oversold, and it's not all the companies are going to win. There's going to be winners and losers, and same with the people that are going to be impacted with job losses. But there's AI hallucinates. Sometimes AI gives the wrong answer. Sometimes AI can malfunction just like the robots and throw a temper tantrum just like I throw a temper tantrum. And wait till the Terminator robots show up. Here's the backside of the Historical Society. Someone was asking me if I ever go to the Historical Society. Yes, we've gone inside. It's been a while. I've got some footage on YouTube from the inside of the Chicago Historical Society here in Lincoln Park. They sometimes have events here. It's nice. It looks nice when it's all lit up here. And they got like a history walk through the park here. They got these pergolas here. Yep, no robot, no flying cars, no time travel. But hey, we got some nice phones. We got TikTok. What else? What makes us feel okay? So the Coco robots are probably something that makes me feel like I'm living in the future, because I never imagined these little. They look like coolers with wheels, you know, and driving around the sidewalk autonomously. I guess they got some self-driving cars they're still testing in Vegas and Austin and where else? Las Vegas and Phoenix, I guess. But they're still working out the bugs. AI's killed children, I believe that. There's a lawsuit against one of the ChatGPT companies that a teenage kid, the kid got like suicidal, and ChatGPT was telling it to cut himself and stuff. And so if it's documented, you know, you could, I'm sure all these AI companies are preparing for lawsuits. You know, if self-driving car wrecks, do you sue Elon Musk? Do you sue Tesla? You know, or is it just an act of God? You know, and you'll be, you know, without recourse or a chance to be made whole. What if a self-driving car wrecks into you? We've already discovered now ICE has been in accidents, and ICE usually doesn't leave insurance. So, you know, if a police officer hits you, if your car becomes evidence and usually is impounded. That happened to a friend of mine. When I went to college in Cincinnati, we had a lot of violent crime in Cincinnati as well as Chicago. It's not, you know, St. Louis has violent crime, so does Memphis, so does New Orleans. It's not just Chicago. And when I went to college in Cincinnati in the 1990s, a friend of mine, he was driving down a street in Cincinnati. There was a police chase. The police were behind him. The people they were trying to catch were in front of him. He pulled over. They kind of wrecked into the car. Like the car wrecked and he was like part of it. And the police shot bullets through his car towards the vehicle. And he was really freaked out because he ducked down the street. The bullets shattered his windshield. The police officers shot through his car to try to get the person. This really happened. And they impounded his car. It took him weeks to get his car back, and it was all damaged. And the police were just like, "Sorry, dude, you were at the wrong place, wrong time." He's like, "You could have killed me." And they're like, "Sorry," you know, and you know, it's your fault that you got in the middle of our police chase, and that happens, you know. And same with ICE, you know, it's ICE is even worse. Here's here we're across the street here. We're at LaSalle and Clark. There's Eugenie Terrace there. We'll say hello to Jeremy, the pilot. Yeah. Self-driving tractors. Yeah, we know about the self-driving tractors. They got GPS. Yeah, farming's high tech now. They use drones for farming, and they use automated tractors with GPS that plow your field. They'll do an exact straight row, and it increases yields. And it's corporate farming taken to the next level here. Look at this beautiful view you get to the John Hancock there. That's looking down Clark Street from LaSalle Street. Here we'll do a check on Chicago gas prices. Here's the BP, one of the most expensive. This is the most expensive. I can't even get it here. It's $4.19. $4.19. I know you can't read it because it's too blurry there, but trust me. Here we'll cross Clark Street here once we get the last cars here, making a left here. But we should get a view to the Sears Tower if I zoom in this way here. So we'll get, there's the John Hancock, 875 North Michigan, looking down Clark Street. There. Look at that. There's the blue and purple top of the Sears Tower here, Clark and LaSalle. Now we're in Lincoln Park. So here we'll head across this little spur here. Yeah, $4.19. Gas prices there at the BP. This is consistently one of the most expensive gas stations in the whole city. Ice went into a preschool and got a teacher. I mean, it's so tragic what's going on. I'm angered every day. I know it's hard to watch social media. I'm ashamed of my country, and you can be ashamed of me for not agreeing with me, but it's just not a good look for America. It's just not a good look. I don't care who you are, you know. Some people are cheering this. Some people are like, good, this is what these people deserve. Slam them to the ground. I'm like, well, how would you treat me, you know? You can slam me to the ground, you know. I now I understand, you know. Respect my authority. Yeah, okay. I mean, you know, here we are, we got all this wealth, and, you know, that's why people come here. And then you know, now we're turning it into a gated community. You know, there's a cutoff. We've gone through this before. Immigration came completely to a halt during the 1920s. The Roaring 1920s, because it was after World War I, and they were worried about a bunch of European refugees coming to America. The mass European immigrants came 1880s to 1919, or 1918. It was before the American involvement in World War I. That was when I have one ancestor that immigrated from Norway that came through that period. That was the massive European immigrant influx. There was an earlier one. I got many German immigrants that came here before the Civil War. That's when the Irish and the Germans came, including to this area before the Civil War. The original immigrants from Ireland and Germany. Well, there was German immigration in the colonial period, and Irish immigration. It was just like a trickle, though. It was, you know, mainly British and French and Spanish, the early colonial conquistadors. But here we'll head past the Duck House. We just crossed Wells Street. The original Exit Punk Bar was there. The second iteration was on North Avenue. We're on Eugenie Street, Old Town Triangle. We'll see if the ducks are out. Yeah, I hear them. So here, these are the 3 workmen's cottages here on Eugenie Street, Old Town. I hear the ducks. They're talking to us here, so we'll quiet down. Here's the ducks of Old Town here, Eugenie Street. How you doing there, ducks? You were quacking, now you got quiet. You heard my voice there. You're like, there's the guy that comes and films us. How you doing there, ducks? Yeah, tell us something here. What do you say? Where's your turtle friend? Yeah, the ducks. Yeah. Yeah, nice. How you doing? Yeah, they're checking out the ducks too. Here, everybody likes the ducks. So here, we'll head over Crilly Court. Looks like they're, yeah. Little kids like, look at the ducks. Dogs like them. Just nice to know they're there. They're nice little pond habitat. There, Eugenie Crilly Court there. I hope you're talking about the basketball Kings. Yeah, the Bulls beat the Philadelphia 76ers, right? Yeah, 113, 111 yet last night. We were talking about that this morning. So the Bulls are back playing. The Bulls are 6-1. The Bulls have got an amazing good start to their season there. So hey, hopefully it continues there. Oh, you lived at 1704 Crilly Court. Well, hey, let's check it out there. Let's check out Crilly Court here. I think we're right near there. Let's see. Yeah, because Crilly Court, there's this one block area that we always walk through, and then there's an alley called Crilly Court that's near the relief shanty that was built after the Great Chicago Fire that's over there. Somebody in the comments told me that was a Sears Roebuck house. I'm like, nice try. There is a Sears Roebuck house on Lincoln Park West, but it's not that house. And I see why they would think it's a Sears Roebuck house, but it was a relief shanty. It's well documented, 1871, 1872. One of the co-founders or the directors of the Steppenwolf Theater used to live there. So here, let's see what we got here. 1704, we already passed it here. So what address are we at here? We're 1712. So yeah, 1704. Was it on this side? See, remember the Oliver, and they named him after the developer's kid. 1704, there's your old place right there. There's your old place, 1704 Crilly Court. How you doing there? Yeah, the Henry Gerber house was near here. Yeah. 72,000. So you moved. Wow, that shows you how much this real estate has increased. People talk about moving into Wrigley Field before all the prices went up, and yeah, buying houses for 70,000, and now they're worth $500,000 or $1 million. Yeah, it's just amazing. Blackhawks, yeah, they're 500. They won as many games as they lost. Okay, it's good. Here's this is St. Paul Street here. We talked to the nice woman that lives in this house here, I assume, with the beautiful porch there. She said hello. I appreciate that. And because she's like, stop. She's probably like, why are you always filming my house? It's so beautiful. We walk by here. Look at this porch. They still got the Halloween decorations. They removed they had the streamers, the cloth going across there, but we got video reruns of it. This is St. Paul. We go through here all the time. St. Paul Street, Chicago, Illinois. Hey, there, they can hear me. They got the windows open. That's good. Friends and neighbors there. So, yeah, here's a nice fall display, especially with the leaves here. This is St. Paul Street. Look at that nice. Yeah, we got Charlie Brown and Snoopy. How you doing there? 4-story Lakeview brownstone for $30,000. Chicago Toxic Donut, $30,000 in Lakeview brownstone, 4-story. That's amazing. Yep. Yeah, I think my father's house, what he originally paid for it, his latest car, he paid more for his latest car than he paid for his first house. You know. Oh my God, that's inflation. And people wonder why Mondami got elected in New York. It's because despite all politicians from the left and the right saying they were going to get inflation under control, neither party, including the current administration, has really gotten inflation completely under control. You know, I know the Fed, and they say it's 3% or under 3%, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels, especially with housing, it just feels like it's and then people are starting to get their health care premiums are going up, red and blue states, and there's really no plan, you know. I think the plan is to destroy Obamacare and just let the premiums go up, and then listen to everybody complain and say, well, what can we do? This is capitalism, you know. And then people wonder why people vote for Zoran Mondami. I know. See, it's a vicious cycle. And the left gets further to the left, the right gets further to the right. Everybody's like, there's got to be a centrist candidate. And then Cuomo's like, well, nobody voted for me. Not enough, you know. It's amazing, you know. Same thing happened with people often, you know, they're like, how can you stand to live in Chicago? We can't stand Brandon Johnson. I'm like, you don't live in Chicago. Why does he bother you so much? You know, but we know why. And it's because hardly anybody shows up to vote for mayoral elections. They always have them in like March, beginning of March, when it's like -20 and it's in a weekday, like on a Tuesday, and everybody forgets it's the election. And then, so it's like 20% turnout. And then we had, you know, Paul Vallis, you know, he was more centrist than Brandon Johnson was further to the left of Paul Vallis. Paul Vallis thought he was a lock. No, Brandon Johnson came out of nowhere, won the election. And it shocked people. We were like, who's this Brandon Johnson guy? You know, he ran the teachers union. You're just like, really? You know, and, you know, look at Mondami there, you know. Mayor of the largest city in the United States. 30-some years old. You know. We'll see how it goes, you know. I'm excited about it, but it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder than anybody imagines, you know. You know, you want to change the world, as the Beatles said. Well, you know, you want to talk about destruction, count me out, you know. It's going to be all right. Hey, we're on Lincoln Park West here. Hey, look at the moon. Look at the moon. That's the full moon rising above that Italian acorn. Let's see if we can get it there. There's the full moon there. Wow. I wonder if I wish I would have. We went by the South Pond yesterday. We caught the moon, but it's already too high in the sky. I need to catch it earlier. But here, this is the Ann Halstead row houses. Look at the beautiful stained glass here. It's right next to the Charles Wacker house, the Frederick Wacker house. And here, let me show you the Sears Roebuck house. There's a Sears Roebuck house over here. I walked by here so many times and didn't realize. Is it this one? Is this the Sears Roebuck house? One of these is a Sears Roebuck house, where, you know, the mail order catalog, you could order a house and they would send you the materials, and you could have somebody build it for you. You could build it yourself. And is it this one, or is it this one? It's this one next to it here. And somebody told me this, and we looked it up. Here, let me while I'm here, let me get this right here. Let me take. We'll let you look at the Charles and Frederick Wacker house. These beautiful Victorian, and this is Wacker Drive was named after this family here. Here, let me look it up here. Let's see if I can find it here. Oops. Here, I'm looking something up here. There, Lincoln Park, Chicago. There's no single Sears house in Lincoln. It leaves a specific historic home. Let's see. Likely candidates are the Bruce Cam house or the Powerhouse. Okay, let's see if we can find this here. Lincoln Park West. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and we were talking about this. Hold on. I'm glad I'm looking this up. There's an historic row home in 1917 North Lincoln Park West, the former Sears headquarters. There's a row home. So we'll look into this. I don't know if this is a Sears Roebuck house or not, but there are Sears Roebuck houses, and it wouldn't. I don't think one would be built here. There are. I know of a Sears Roebuck house in South Bend that was built near Notre Dame. I've been inside that house, but hey, maybe I missed some comments here. Hold on. Yeah, rent controls. Yeah, we'll be talking more about rent controls. So here we'll head across Lincoln Park West. We'll go up Lincoln here, and let's just keep going. We'll go north on Lincoln Park West. We'll go up that housing there. Here, this is Wisconsin Street. They got the nice row houses here. Lincoln Hall. Let's see, where's Lincoln Hall? Okay, yeah, Lincoln Hall is about 5 blocks north of us. It's north of Fullerton. That's a music venue there. Yeah, see, here's the Hotel Lincoln. We go by the Lincoln Hall sometimes. It's near the Biograph Theater. It's across the street from the Biograph Theater. That's where John Dillinger was killed by the G-men. Yeah, you go up, just type in the Biograph Lincoln Fullerton. It's across the street, Lincoln Hall. There was a pool hall called Lincoln Station, but there was a fire there a year ago or something, and a Chicago firefighter tragically lost his life there. We went there the day after. We could still smell the smoke. And is Vietnam tuning in there? Yeah. So the local time is 6:43 in the PM there. Yeah, so a lot of some of the diagonal streets, not all of them, but a lot of the diagonal streets are the old Native American trails, Indian trails. I agree. Clark Street's one for sure. Clark Street's an old Native American trail. That's what runs at a slight angle. Lincoln runs at a more diagonal. Milwaukee was an old plank road. It was an old wooden plank road when this was all muddy and swampy, and it didn't last long. But like Vincennes is an old road trail, of course, and so is Ogden. And there were more, Rush Street runs at a slight angle because it was the old Green Bay Road. Yeah, they were Native American trails. The Potawatomi would connect to the Fox and the Sauk, and the Miami from Indiana used to come up this way too. The Iroquois were here during the Beaver Wars. They kind of forced all the other tribes out of this area, and they hunted beaver almost to extinction because they got weapons from the Dutch and the British, and that's why they were able to dominate the vast interior hinterlands that became the Midwest. It changed all the way the rivers flowed. They said that there was beaver dams in every creek and river, and then after they killed so many beaver, the river started running faster and messed things up. Shows you how the North American landscape started to be altered by colonialization. It was a daisy chain. For example, here's what I'm talking about. When like Daniel Boone and the original explorers from colonial America explored the interior of Kentucky, Ohio, they found Native Americans, but the population density was much lower than they would have thought. And it's because there was a vast pandemic from when the Spanish came, wiped out, they think, maybe as much as 90% of the indigenous population before the British and the French even got to North America. And then the remnants coalesced in remnant tribes. And then the Iroquois got weapons from the British and the Dutch in New York, and they pushed into, they destroyed the Huron, they destroyed the Erie. The Erie had to move south. The Susquehanna were defeated by, these are all Native American nations and tribes. The Delaware, the Lenape, they were affected by it as well. And the Shawnee were pushed out of the Ohio country. They were pushed south all the way to Savannah, Georgia. It affected the Cherokee. They think some of the Cherokee are remnants of the Erie tribe, but not all the Cherokee. Cherokees kind of coalesced in the Appalachian Mountains. There was the Creeks were there first in the Yuchi, and they got pushed out too. There were the Catawba. It's amazing the amount of indigenous population that were east of the Mississippi, and we forget that because of the Indian Removal Act. Another thing, for example, the Comanche in Texas and New Mexico, the Panhandle and the interior part of Texas, the hill country. They, of course, Native Americans didn't have horses until the Spanish came, and some of their horses escaped, became feral, and the Comanches discovered them independently and domesticated them independently as a new animal that they discovered wandering across the plains, and they became some of the most fierce and feared horsemen. And they did that all on their own, and they created a lance. And we can't think of almost like the Plains Indians, like the Lakota Sioux, without being on a horse. But originally they lived in Minnesota, and they didn't have horses. Isn't that amazing? And I'll have to go back to, I know I thought of this when we were at the, I know I'm missing a bunch of comments here, sorry about that. When we went to the post office there in the Loop yesterday, we walked through the Mies van der Rohe designed post office there at the Federal Plaza there near the Calder statue. And in there is a painting of indigenous Native Americans from the American post-colonial perspective. And of course, that painting probably happened in the 1950s or 60s when that building was built. And they painted the Potawatomi living in teepees. The Potawatomi did not live in teepees. The Potawatomi lived in wigwams and longhouses like the Iroquois because they lived in a more northern climate. I know the Lakota Sioux lived in teepees on the plains, but it was so they could transport it. They could quickly pick up the whole town and move it. It was like the nomads of the Mongols in Siberia. It was like a yurt. You could pick up the whole house and move it quickly. And before they had horses, they would use their dogs to drag it, you know. And the poles of the teepee could be dragged because they didn't have wheels. And but yeah, the Potawatomi lived in long houses and wigwams. They did not live in teepees. But the person who painted it, they didn't know that. They did the people mistakenly thought that all Indians lived in teepees like the Lakota Sioux or the Arapaho or the Cheyenne, and that wasn't the case. The Cherokees didn't live in teepees. Some of the Cherokees lived in log cabins. Some of the Cherokees lived in antebellum mansions with columns that are used for weddings to this day. The house where the woman that wrote Gone with the Wind, what is that book about? That book's about the lost cause of the South and how, you know, the glory of the plantation house was destroyed by the Civil War. It was a taking, and they lost their property, which was their slaves, and all woe is us, you know, gone with the wind. The house she lived in when she wrote that book and grew up in used to be owned by Charles Renatus Hicks. Who's Charles Renatus Hicks? He was the principal elected chief of the old Cherokee Nation when they created a constitution. And they elected the chief, and he was the first mixed blood chief because he was part German and Irish or Scottish. He was part Scottish and German, but he was also part Native American indigenous. And he could have had his maternal grandmother could have been from Natchez, Mississippi, because there was Natchez refugees from when the French came up there in 1730, and that Natchez found refugees. They had their own Trail of Tears in 1730, 100 years before the Cherokee Trail of Tears. But some of the Natchez lived with the Creeks, some of them lived with the Chickasaws, and some of them lived with the Cherokees. And then they became part of the Cherokee culture. Attaculla's wife was Natchez, and that's where Natchez, Mississippi gets its name, on those bluffs there. Here's a Cocoa. But I love indigenous history because it's American history. You can't fully understand American history without understanding indigenous Native American history because it affects the way the station was settled. If you don't like gentrification in cities, why did you like gentrification of the Native Americans? It's the same thing. One population pushes the other population out, you know, and the rents go up. Here's where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened. Here's where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened in Chicago. It's across from the Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder. Nice Chicago-style pizza, 2121 North Clark Street. That apartment where Larry and Balky lived from Perfect Strangers is right there. Here's where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened, 1929, February 14th. You can go to the Mob Museum in Las Vegas. They reconstructed the wall. 70 rounds of Tommy gun bullets went into the 7 members of Bugs Moran's North Side gang. Bugs Moran was supposed to be there, but he showed up, he got spooked, didn't go inside. Bugs Moran lived at the hotel right a block away. And Al Capone was in Florida. He had a nice alibi. He said, I was at my Miami resort house. How could I have done it? And the most disturbing thing about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre was 2 of the assailants were dressed as Chicago police officers, and it's still an unsolved murder mystery to this day. No one was, a lot of people were questioned, but no one was tried for it. And probably one of the most famous unsolved murder mysteries in the history of the United States, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And there won't be a plaque. The city will never put a plaque there. The Untouchable tours stop there. I point it out all the time. Lucky Chucky's done a nice video on it. Yeah. Shani Nighthawk, how you doing there? Thanks for tuning in there. Denise, Dustcatcher. Yeah, Mike, One Golden Nubian, how you doing there? Yeah, I think it deserves. I personally think it deserves a historical plaque. Yeah, but they typically don't do plaques for crime events because then people will make a shrine to the crime, and you know they worry about copycats and things like that. So they don't want to set a precedent for memorializing. But there's a plaque to the Fort Dearborn massacre. Isn't that interesting? That was where the Potawatomi destroyed Fort Dearborn in 1812. There used to be a statue to it, And so it is interesting that some things are commemorated and other things aren't. That's a good question. I don't know why. You know, the Untouchable, they may make money off of it. You know, it's part of the reason people take the tour. I give tours all the time here, virtual tours. I like the turquoise tile there, 2208. This is commercial storefronts on Clark Street across from the Francis Parker here. But here, we'll be back on tomorrow. We'll head downtown. We'll see what's happening. And thanks for tuning in here. Hey, Central Nail and Spa there. There's always some nail spa going on. And we'll go past the Josh Moulton Fine Art Gallery. Yo Berry. Livermore. Yeah. That's the reason we can't have nice things, yeah. Gibson's, it could be. We go by Gibson's all the time. Frank Sinatra used to hang out there. It was one of his favorite places. Yeah, Gibson's. You go to Gene and Giorgetti's under the L tracks there on Franklin. Yeah, there's many. You go to the remnants of Little Italy. We go to the real Rosebud on Taylor Street. There's another Rosebud on Rush Street, but we've gone by the real one on Taylor Street. Then there's some other Tuscany. A few other restaurants are down there. But yeah, there's still, like, often I'll be doing some Prohibition gangland era history there, and somebody tuning in will be like, one time I was doing the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and if you're tuning in, I appreciate it. A woman in the comments, she goes, my grandfather was Jaime Weiss. And I was like, really? You know, or she was related to Jaime Weiss, you know, and so this is a living history, you know. I have an ancestor that was affected by Prohibition. He ran a still, and he ended up getting in a fight with a G-man. A man was murdered. He went to jail for it. He was on the lam for 3 years. This is my direct ancestor, and it shows you Prohibition. I often wonder, if Prohibition didn't happen, I wonder if none of that would have happened. You know, it pitted Americans against Americans to enforce a law, and they changed the Constitution. And they thought ending alcohol would make people safer and sober, and it actually made crime worse, especially in the cities. And it shows you how any law can have unintended consequences. Where it kind of, you know, it has a reaction to every action. And we're seeing it now with current events. So, I guess there was a big demonstration in Washington, D.C. I haven't read much about it. It might have not been as big as they had planned, but I think 20,000 people marched. I know people were talking about not buying stuff on Cyber Monday and Black Friday. We'll see if people always say that, and then everybody sneaks and still buys stuff anyway. You know, it's like me with the Target ban. You know, you're not supposed to go. I still shop at Target. I'm a bad liberal. You know, I still stop at Target because I'm lazy. You know, I still shop at Walmart. I know you guys supposed to shop at Walmart. I'll shop at Walmart. You know, I'm a lazy hippie. You know, but there's no Walmarts left in the city here. There's some on the far western edge here, but here we'll head across the street here. Legalizing tax. Yeah, you got it. Everything that can be taxed will be taxed. But here we're at Belden and Clark Street. There's that Charles Sumner Frost building there. The Cobden building. Look at that beautiful residential building here. This is Clark Street, north of Belden there. Now touring. So hey, we'll start wrapping this up here. Yeah. So thanks, Jew, Google, Phil Goodyear. What's that? You got the nice scripter, beautiful Chicago, Dustcatcher, Kira. Yeah. So thanks for being on, everybody here. Thanks, Anita, for being on, everybody else. We'll call it a night here. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for your kind words for Shauna. And we'll keep on keeping on. I'll probably work from home on Friday, but we'll still keep a regular schedule tomorrow. So check out the reruns there. I posted the gravy boat there, the turkey promotion for Joel Osco. I'm not getting paid for Joel Osco. I just thought it was interesting. And we got to have some Thanksgiving content before we get to Christmas. I know I already got some Christmas content. Yeah, and they're setting up the official Christmas tree. They brought in a 68-foot Norwegian pine from Glenview, which is the suburbs of Chicago. Here's the Reby moving and storage here. There's the pharaohs that guard the door there. Look how beautiful that is. And there's ravens right across there. I forgot to point it out. We always point out the Egyptian revival architectural style here, the historic Reby storage warehouse here. George Kingsley, the architect, 1922. But yeah, they set up that 68-foot Norwegian pine there. It was donated from the Mason family in Glenview. So thanks to the Mason family for donating a real tree out of their real yard. They're gonna decorate their Millennium Park, and they're supposed to light that on November the 20th, I think, on Friday. And I might have said Saturday. I guess Saturday is when they do the parade, right? So they do the tree on Friday, and then they do the parade the day after. Maybe that's how they do it. Here's the Big Apple Finder Foods here. Nice mom and pop grocery stores. Check them out. They got a good meat market. They got me through the pandemic here. And here, we'll wrap this up. So have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. And Grandma's Corner, thanks for tuning in. One golden newbie in there. Kira, Sam, Zara, Grim Evil, yeah, have a good night there. Chicago Toxic Donut, thanks for the good information. Tom Pot, thanks again for all the gift subscriptions. And Scott James, yeah, Emily, Dolores, Phil, Lady T, Drew Google, Ed Music, yeah, Sam, Ron Sense, Subi, yeah, T-Lime Tea Time, I think I said you already. Margie R, Sabrina Suburban Gardener, yeah, thanks everybody. Anita, thanks for being on. Yeah, thanks everybody. And Anita, thanks so much. Gene Sheridan, Russell, John. I think I got everybody. Eminem, Dust Catcher, Not You, Put, City Roberts. Yeah, Grandma's Corner. I think we're back to the front here. So, yeah, if I missed you, Fan Sky, we'll see you tomorrow there, Wes. Thanks, everybody. Clark and Fullerton. Have a good night. I'm going to get some Five Guys. Okay, talk.